always got to get to that hot guitar lick. Welcome to the week 0 episode of Moen After Dark, post 0, Moen After Dark PZ. Post week 0, we're going to talk some football tonight, and we may have the phone system maybe up, I think. So we may be taking calls tonight. We're going to try,
which would be awesome.
We're going to try some different stuff tonight. We're going to get freaky. I am, of course, Moen, the host. My co-host, Rock and Rant. How are you doing, Rock and Rant?
I'm good, man. It was amazing to have actual football back and
Rock and Rant. How are you doing, Rock
and have it all sort of come together. So it definitely was not a boring day either.
Yeah, all 4 dogs covered the spread. That's never happened, as far as I can recall in week 0.
Yeah, I was happy about one of them, not another one.
Yeah, I really wanted Nevada to beat SMU, but we'll take what we can get. Say hi to some people here in chat because it jumped off early. Stormy Cyclone's here. Good to see you, Stormy Cyclone. Ryan Willie, who's been a member for 8 months now. Thank you, Ryan. I addresses Kerry Go Knowles. I'm an evil Badger fan who will defend Wisconsin in the big, except Michigan and Minnesota. Wisconsin has had success versus ACC in bowls, including PSU and Miami. FSU wouldn't sniff a playoff. I think that's supposed to be FSU. Who is PSU?
Penn State?
Yeah, that's not an ACC team.
Yeah.
You might have to let us know who that is you're talking about, Ryan. He says spot in the big. Clay Johansson, you get to say this one.
I will say go blue. They're not on the schedule.
John Dry's here. Hi, y'all. Guns up from the Texas Panhandle. We're the piranhas of college sports. And then he encourages Ryan to be anti-Ohio State. That's not a good thing. TCU shut Michigan down. Wisco going to shit Ohio State down. No, I don't think so.
They might shut him down, though, but probably not shit him down.
Not shit him down. Wouldn't shit you, my favorite turd. Expedition Greg says, go Buckeyes. Good to see Expedition Greg. Jan Holk is in the house. Hey, y'all. Good to see you, Jan, all the way from Slovenia. Just a reminder, and I pinned this at the top of the chat, if you want to play our college pick'em game with us this year, we've got a group set up on ESPN.com. If you follow that link on Twitter, it has the link to the group and the password. Obviously, get your picks in by Thursday.
Get your picks in on Thursday, and we did create a new channel in our Discord, so if you haven't joined our Discord, there's a new channel for you to make your picks for any given week, call your shots in some place we can find them, though, of course, you could probably go in and edit your picks, but also, people want to chit-chat about betting lines and things like that during the week. It's a good place to drop it outside of the general talk. So if you haven't joined, and we've been asking you for months, now's the time. Season's going.
Yeah, we're probably going to do our internal picks on Friday nights. There's going to be a few rare occasions where we have to pick one game on a Tuesday night if it's a Thursday night game like the Minnesota-North Carolina game. But for the most part, we're going to be making those picks against the spread on Friday, the Big Freaking Friday show. Daniel Gygax says, hi, everyone. Conundrum says, Georgia Tech. I got a screwdriver here.
It's a new drink called the Knoll.
Yeah. Why is it called the Knoll?
I don't know. It's a little bit, it's a hard one to measure
swallow?
Speed.
Fred's Call Me Sean says props to underrated Georgia Tech. We will get into that. I think Georgia Tech deserves the props. Brent Key deserves the props. Who stayed up to watch Hawaii? I did because I bet on it. And I ended up getting 3 hours of sleep and mowing the yard and then coming inside and taking a shower and passing back out. Yeah, I let it ride yesterday. I missed on the over on the Florida State game. Obviously, did not come in. But I took every dog yesterday and I won every single dog bet. So,
yeah, unfortunately, I bit into my own hype about thinking that SMU would not win the ACC at all, but be a top 5 or 6 team because of their schedule. And I rode with it, and I was reminded of some of the downsides of Rhett Lashley as offensive coordinator at Miami, though I generally was okay with him.
Caleb Ramirez says, hi, everyone. Good to see you, Caleb. Jose says, Georgia Tech. We're going to get a lot of Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech. What's the safe word? Georgia Tech. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you.
Hey, Joe.
Coy's in the house. Good to see you.
What's up, Coy?
Illini Ted's in the house. Good to see you, Illini Ted. Stormy Cyclone became a YouTube member. Thank you, Stormy Cyclone. You're the dude.
It's been good seeing Stormy across.
Jason Spangler says Georgia Tech plus 10.5, under 54.5 was a gift. I actually got my bet in at 13.5, but that I was expecting the over.
I was expecting the over. I agree on whether it was 10.5 or 13. I think that was a gift, but
listen, Bomber's back.
Hey,
can you say anything? Okay. I didn't know if you were gonna come on here and sign.
I can talk a little bit. I probably talked more tonight than I should have. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. How are you doing?
Excellent. Anybody tells you that operations on your tongue aren't gonna hurt is lying to you.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you. It's not very fun. But I miss you guys. How's everything going?
Good, man. I'm impressed with how well you're doing. If I didn't know any better about your actual having surgery and you as a person, I would think you were just having a lot of Georgia Techs. So it's okay, man.
You can hear the pain medication, Nathan.
A little bit. I probably need more than I'm getting. But it's all working out. I don't know what you're talking about. Heck of a game yesterday, though, huh?
Yeah, we were just wrapping up hellos here. Hello. There's a Discord. Clint Moses is here. Good to see you, Clint Moses. I think I already said hello to Stephen Vitt. The Georgia Tech game will be a thing tonight. It will. I've got my screwdriver. It's about 3/4 vodka, 1/4 orange juice. So that'll last me the show.
There you go.
And we've got our phone system up and running. So
yay!
We will take some phone calls today.
Yeah, let's do that.
Atlanta is drinking with you tonight, guys. Ryan Willie with the $5 super chat. What's the line for Western Michigan versus Wisconsin on Friday? I don't know. Somebody would have to Google that for me because I can't have the phone system up.
It didn't. That game, I'm sure you're going to be fine. The line will be interesting to know because I actually have no idea. It's not a big enough game for the wider side to make my mascot wall behind me for this coming weekend.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to pick that game this week, Ryan.
Yeah, but in honor of a lot of us, I do have like the Irish, Crying Jordan version available. Hopefully that will be a thing that happens.
All right, guys. Well, let's talk a little bit about that Georgia Tech game. We called it on Friday night, or I called it on Friday night, I should say. Take the points in Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech not only took all them points, but they won the game.
Well,
I'll tell you, the top 10 Florida State team.
I jumped into Rec Talk, who was your guys' guest on Friday, his live stream on Saturday, and he was right. He did clear the room of Florida State fans when the game was over. So even though I don't think he actually picked them, but his pronunciation or his proclaiming that they would all abandon, that did happen. It was a freaking impressive performance by Georgia Tech. No matter which way you want to cut it or argue it or finesse it around, underrated, overrated, they played really well.
Yeah, I think Georgia Tech is extremely underrated because I think people had them winning maybe 5 or 6 games this season. And, I told you they were one of my sleepers in the ACC, and I think that's going to pan out. I think they're probably going to be an 8 to 9 win team this season. Jason Spangler wants to know how you're feeling, Bomber.
Yeah, so surgery went well. And Moen knows this. There's this thing about edges. And when they go in and they cut everything out, they need to make sure they have good edges around it. Otherwise, it won't heal. And then other infections and stuff can happen. So it was a little bigger and a little deeper than they anticipated. So I have an appointment this next week. We'll have to see. Hopefully it doesn't go from there. If it goes from there, I'm in kind of trouble. They go in and they start taking out lymph nodes, which is not a good second step. So I appreciate everybody's prayers. They've been well received. And hopefully we get past this next appointment and everything will be okay. So thank you, Jason. Appreciate you asking. As I'm hoping to be on the show on Tuesday night. We won't know yet. But I wanted to stop in and say hi. Can I just say really quick about the Georgia Tech Florida State thing?
Go ahead.
It looked to me like Florida State was playing in first gear. The whole game, it didn't ever look like they were the
They were holding
team.
back.
Yeah, where was the team that was going to beat somebody down by 40 points, right?
We were talking about it before the show. I don't know if they were trying to not give away all their plays for the season.
Yeah, it did. It looked like an NFL preseason game to me. And obviously, Georgia Tech came to play. Their quarterback, he's white as milk, but boy, oh boy, he could take heads and keep going, right?
Yeah.
You look at him, you don't assume he's going to be that athletic because he's so sort of lurchy. But boy, and Florida State simply did not play well. That last drive, they had the ball. Why wasn't that the whole game? I checked in after halftime expecting Florida State to be up 28 or something. And instead, it was just, I don't understand it.
I think Mike Norvell just coached a poor game. I think that was a poor coaching. I think he was stuck in the way that he was going to run the ball. And when it didn't work, he just couldn't get out of it.
I know that, and I know only because Carrie Go-Knowles told me, because I don't even remember the commentators mentioning it, but I know that Florida State's offensive line coach wasn't there for the game. And, he thought that had a big impact. I don't know if he's in the show or comes in later, can comment on there. And I understand that to a degree, but that doesn't really have anything to do with explaining about, how that performance still without that coach against a team who last year ranked 132 in rushing defense with a new defensive coordinator. Like, you can get the next god of defensive coordinators, the future Bill Belichick. They don't really, against an experienced line, coachless or not, with your coach or without a coach, like, you don't all of a sudden become like the top 15 defensive line with the new personnel that they did get in one season. So, or in reverse, that doesn't explain to me how Georgia Tech's offensive line, who is good and probably a top 3 or 4 offensive line in the ACC, at least with a lot of returning starters on a team that returned a lot of their offense, that doesn't really explain to me how they kind of like owned the line of scrimmage on FSU's defensive line, and even going into when they were picking up linebackers. So, that first drive was pretty impressive from Florida State. I thought, all right, this is exactly like the ideal scenario. You don't have to let DJ go crazy. You can just run it down their throat. And I thought that was a good harbinger, but clearly that was not. Maybe they made them overconfident in that we can hold back in running game because they were just so thoroughly amazing on that first drive to me.
I'm flabbergasted. I don't know what happened to Florida State this offseason. I get they were left out of the playoffs.
Right.
But they reloaded in the portal. I think they loaded, maybe Colorado maybe loaded more up in the portal than Florida State did. And,
and they
took 5-star transfers in, and I don't know.
Yeah, they're bringing in people from Alabama, for heaven's sakes, right? As
Georgia.
There's no reason they should. I don't know. It almost looked to me, and this we'll know later in the season. They could go 12-1, guys, right?
They could.
But we don't know really. What are we looking at? Is it a team that simply has no faith and they just need to get in and fight and go through a few games and win to sort of build that up? Is it like a self-reflection thing, or do they really have flaws? Are there systemic issues with this team that'll show up later in the season? I don't know. All I know is that Florida State was the most talked about school in this offseason. They got more positive and negative press than any school in probably decades over in this last 6 months because of realignment and everything. And I just don't know what that team was doing. I know the Florida State guys that are my friends pretty frustrated, right? They're
Yeah.
very frustrated with what
And we
they
can't
saw.
take away anything from Georgia Tech.
I'm
Georgia
not
Tech,
taking it.
yeah,
It's just
I just
nothing
want
to
to
do
put
with
that out
Georgia
there. We're
Tech.
not
Yeah,
disrespecting Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech earned that win.
yeah,
They
we're not.
played
Yeah.
balls to the wall. Fantastic performance by Haynes and Haynes.
Yep,
You know,
that's
so.
true.
If you would have told me that Georgia Tech won that game and Haynes only had 16 passes, I would never have believed it.
That's fair. Yes, I agree. That's right.
Yeah, the stat
Like-
lines were pretty amazing. Florida State, I think, outgained them on offense and still lost the game.
Yeah,
I think
I
Haynes
don't understand. I just don't understand it. You know.
That's why
And
the
at the
sport
end,
is amazing.
yeah,
oh,
Lee
brother.
says it. Georgia Tech just owned the line of scrimmage. Yeah, both sides of the ball. No doubt about it. And then Les Austin Jr. says Florida State's like Ohio State. You have to win on the line of scrimmage and stop claiming paper championships. That's a little rich coming from a Michigan. All right, let's talk about the SMU Nevada game. We had the game in between the New Mexico Lobos versus Montana State. Montana State pulled that one out. But Bronco Mendenhall really did a great job with New Mexico.
Yeah, I
They
don't
were
know what
worst in
happened
their
there
conference
either.
last year, and they just kind of gave it up at the end. But sometimes you got to have a moral victory. That was a moral victory for them, I think.
That was definitely. I mean, a couple of things on the SMU front. I've had them as like a sleeper, not to win the ACC or anything, but just to be whatever a top 5 or top 6 team. So like I own that, and some of the reason why I said that were a couple of the players that had transferred from Miami that actually were fairly critical in helping them come back. But Rhett Lashley did not have a good game as a head coach there. If you ever listen to Flo when he's joined these guys or on his own channel, he used to talk about when Rhett Lashley was the offensive coordinator at Miami that he could like predict the play before it happened, even though he had some interesting wrinkles here or there. And I thought they ran a fairly predictable offense for a team that has more talent than the team that faced off against them. But when it comes down to this kind of thing, every school escapes, with a win that they should never have had a close game with, whether it was Florida State last year against Boston College when they had that, miracle season of 13-0 before everything got messed up with Jordan Travis getting hurt, or even back in my day, I remember Ed Reed having to rip a ball away in a game for the 2001 Miami Hurricanes that they had no business being on the verge of losing, and they were like one play away from losing that game. So I'm not saying that's going to make SMU go to the playoffs, but they completely were underwhelming, and I'm taking an L on projecting them to have a stronger season after that game. I was really unimpressed.
Yeah, Nevada has a new coach, but remember, they were like, I believe, dead last in the Mountain West last
year. Yeah,
they were not a good Mountain West team. There's no, and the coach is a great coach. He comes from Montana State in the FCS, but SMU played down. SMU played like a G5 team, and I think that, we've said it all along. They didn't earn their way in. They bought.
Yeah,
their
they
way
are
in.
a G5 team.
So
yeah, they should have bought their way back into the AAC yesterday.
Look, at the end of the day, SMU's, people have written checks and they're going to come due. A lot of people are picking them because their schedule is easy peasy. So they could go 8-4, 9-3, right? But they're not going to be the super tested team at the end of the season. And I don't care what their ranking is now or what it's going to be in the future. The climb is much steeper than anybody thinks.
Well, Nevada was one of the quote unquote easiest games on their schedule, right? So
it's true. Yeah.
So if you look at it, I don't even know if are there 2 games easier theoretically on their schedule than that game was on paper before kickoff started. Like I don't know that there were.
Right.
Even with the downtrodden parts of the ACC, almost every one of the downtrodden teams in the ACC would have been favored against Nevada on a neutral field or
Right.
even on the road.
Got a super chat here from Ryan Willie. Florida State's defense was Swiss cheese.
Yeah, they were in Ireland, though. That was the problem.
I don't know. Florida State. We just need to throw that out the window. First game of the year, early week 0. Look, people, they could go 12-1, win the ACC, get the 3 or 4 seed, and win through. They could do that.
Yeah,
Georgia
that's the
Tech
thing.
could win. Georgia Tech could win the conference too.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, 10 years ago, that game is you needed things to happen afterwards to revive your season hopes, right? A few years ago, you just needed to make sure you won, got into, you could save it with another loss by somebody else or winning the conference title game. Yesterday, when it's all said and done for them, might not matter, right? But I think it's hard. I think it's hard for me to just throw it out. It's more like put that game on a shelf for now. Like we have to see. Because it could be telling us a lot, and it could just be that one-off bad game that they didn't expect to lose, and everything still goes according to plan, whether that's a conference title game, winning the title, or getting an at-large. Too soon to tell.
Friends Call Me Sean says Norvell called the game like he had no confidence in his young wide receivers. I agree. I thought he called it because he didn't want to show too much of his offense, but refused to throw until the fourth quarter. Yeah, even when Georgia Tech loading up the box, Georgia Tech's O-line dominated a very talented but not very gelled defensive line.
Well, and didn't they play to the narrative that DJU isn't the greatest thrower? He's athletic. He can run. He does off-ball stuff pretty well. He can throw. Deep balls are better than short. But it seemed to me like he played into those stereotypes. He did not call a game for him to come out and throw the ball 45 times, right?
Yeah, weather could have impacted it a bit. Like there was some rain at some points during the game, so that may have. I don't know how much it altered it, and I'm not trying to make excuses. I thought DJ was DJ.
Yeah.
Right. He's like he is what he is, and he did. I don't think he lost them the game.
No, it's not his fault they lost.
He didn't win them the game either.
No.
But I also don't think Norvell put him in a position to win them the game as opposed
to. Yeah, he didn't have a chance.
So after the game, I saw a lot on Twitter, people raging, saying Norvell needs to be fired and all this nonsense. Right now, looking at them and not really knowing what the rest of the ACC is going to play like, I mean, what do you guys think about FSU's chances to get through? Because they have still some tough games on their schedule. So how do you guys think they end up at the end of the year?
Go ahead, Rock.
So everyone, you can take it whatever grain of salt that you have because I'm a Miami guy, but I actually try to call things pretty black and white with as little bias. I honestly don't know. I was really surprised by how their defense didn't play yesterday.
Yeah.
I was less surprised about their offense because they have a lot of new players. I mean, they turned over a lot of starters. They had over 80% of their offensive production from last year moved on, right, to either the NFL or just graduated or transferred out. So I wasn't necessarily surprised that their offense didn't gel. I was more surprised on the defensive side, which was supposed to be the thing that carried them, even if DJ and the offense were just like a decent, good, normal P2, P4 kind of offense. So, I don't know. Honestly, I don't think they're about to turn in like a 4-8 season. That's only going to happen in Gainesville. But oh yeah,
maybe.
My rule about being, trying to be respectful and kind only does not extend to Gainesville.
Well,
not this week in general, not this week for sure, but in general it doesn't, and it doesn't work in South Bend either.
Okay.
But I don't they still have talent, right? And they still have plenty of time. They have a few games here to get it together. I'd still bet more that they have a really solid season with whatever that hiccup was. And then it still comes down to what happens when Florida State plays Miami and a couple others and about the title game. I think it's too soon to get off that opinion.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? Here's the big thing we should do. Let's take some calls, guys. Let's try this out.
Okay, I'll stick around for one call, and then I gotta go.
All right. Who's going to be the first caller to the College Football Mafia Network?
Let's go, baby.
On the ticker.
It's good to see you too, Lee.
And will it work?
Everybody that's saying hi, I appreciate it, everybody.
Go ahead and call in and say hi.
Greg
Yeah,
Swain's in here.
Moen's worked hard. Somebody's got to at least test it so we know it works.
Yeah, it's technically challenging. I'll tell you that. Somebody give us a call. I don't care who you are. Just somebody call us.
Well, while we're waiting for a call, I will make sure. Yep, we have no calls coming in yet.
Clear the boards. Isn't that what they say? Everybody clear the
We
boards.
will clear the boards. Immaculate, can't believe Ferentz got suspended for something every coach is doing. Yeah, a coach accepting responsibility, that is way out there.
He's never going to be Michigan coach now.
Jason Spangler said, Tempest, I heard someone on another channel best say it felt like FSU defenders were waiting for players to come to them to tackle, like what you have in practice. The wide receivers could not get open. Fair enough. W. Jason Spangler says all the FSU blaming the OL and the DL.
Well, I mean, that's where the root causes of the issues really were.
Right. Fatal Jedi, who's a Florida State fan, said we got outcoached, then outplayed.
Oh, I like that. I like people look in the mirror and can be critical. That's good.
Lee says FSU didn't respect the opponent.
So is that my Google number, yours, Moen?
That's your Google number.
Okay. All right. Good. I just want to make sure
it shouldn't be bouncing through to your phone anymore. I apologize. I didn't realize it was linked until after I spent an hour and a half testing.
You weren't. No.
You got 40 calls on your phone, and Nate was panicking.
I don't. It's fine. I'm okay. I just wanted to make sure we got it working. Somebody needs to call us though, so I can get out of here. I want to be here for the first call.
It was jet lag, Bomber.
Who said that? There we go. Tempest. I love it. Let's go.
Call from
Immaculate.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, Immaculate, you're on the line.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Well. How are you? It's ironic you're the first phone call.
I can only hear one of you over my phone, though.
Oh,
okay. Well, I got to work on that. So you can probably only hear Moen.
Yeah, but I'm turning on. So if I'm having problems following, it's because I'm also listening to myself talk on your show. How you guys doing, though? Good to see you, Bob.
Thank you. Don't thank you for me.
He said thank you, Immaculate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching on the video now so I can hear him. But as far as the game, it was. I honestly didn't plan to watch the whole thing. I was going to have some work to do, but it kept me there the whole time. So go GT, and sorry FSU folks, but you got a long season still ahead of you.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, what's your take on the season? Ask Moen. Ask him that.
What's your take on the season, Immaculate?
For FSU.
No. Are we talking specific teams?
For Florida State and
FSU. I mean, they could still go 11-1. This was the point I was pretty much making, is that everyone used to schedule their first game as a cupcake for a reason. As you guys are saying, it looked like a preseason game. These teams in the first game of the season, they don't got their stuff together. I really want to see how they come together for their second game. I'm not judging these teams as this is their final form by any means. GT looked great for a first game, so folks should probably beware. Their defense was much better than people thought, but maybe that's just because Florida State was not doing well. We'll find out.
Well, the conference may be a little topsy-turvy too. We might have given the conference more credit than they deserve as well.
Or the opposite. You may you may have given the wrong team possibly credit and devalued what quote unquote might be second tier. We don't know that yet, but it's possible could go either way with that.
Yeah, I agree. That's true.
Yep. They all
Yeah,
agree
I
with
think-
you, Immaculate, as always.
Yeah. I'm actually listening now off of YouTube. I can hear them.
Okay. So, what were your
What was-
thoughts on Georgia Tech, though? The overwhelming run attack of Haynes and Haynes.
Man, they need to figure something else out. That the quarterback looked great. You know, you wanted to get this win, and you do whatever it takes to get it. But I don't think he can sustain that all year long.
Yeah.
They're
I
going to have
agree.
to get some other weapons figured out. That's not going to be a winning formula all season long.
Well, and I think we can just predict that adjustments will be made. And so all the stuff that happened and worked
Sure.
good with Florida State was a one-time only trick, right? Try using it. Who do they play next, right? They're gonna put 8 guys in the box and key on the QB and say, okay, now throw the ball 40 times and beat us. That's what I would do to beat them. They just
Yeah.
can't tackle.
Yeah, GT linemen, they look good. I don't know if that maybe has to do with them having a little more experience. I think Florida State guys are probably still going to be more talented, but they did not look like a team that really knew what they were doing out there.
All right.
And that's first game of the season. So I wouldn't look at this as a definer, but yeah, I mean, I'm kind of interested to see GT do pretty well for obvious reasons, right, guys? We
Yeah, that's right.
kind of want to see them be worth an invite.
Yep, that's it. That's it.
Drink.
You know,
Drink.
one thing I would say from a Florida State perspective is, if I'm them, I'm glad that I have an extra day or two, because I think they play on Labor Day, and I'm glad that their game, which I never would have said before the season, but they are playing Boston College. It's good for them. That's a home game, because they had last year was that weird aberration game where Boston College kept them close. That quarterback's
Right.
still there, and they have on paper a much better coach with Bill O'Brien in there now. A game that I wouldn't think twice about watching. I probably wouldn't have watched prior to the game yesterday, but now we'll all be watching that game on Labor Day just to see, like, was it does the Florida State that we expect to come out in that game?
They at home, they better come out and boat race them.
They better.
They got to beat them by like 21 points or something to set the world on edge. I think Georgia Tech's good, though. Their defense is very good.
It's improved. But I think we need to see them against a top level offense first. And, I don't think Florida State was a top level offense yet.
Immaculate, did you get the same feeling that we've talked about here? It kind of looked like Florida State was playing at half speed. It reminded me of an NFL preseason game.
Yeah. I think this is one of those moments where we're kind of, I get why for money reasons they've moved these type of games into the first game of the season, but we really don't know what the actual Florida State team versus the actual Georgia Tech team really comes out to be.
Right.
Both those teams are going to be a lot different going down the road than they are now. So having that game, which I would love to see as a future rivalry type game, having it happen in the first game of the season, that's slightly unfortunate, but hey, it was a great stage for them to be on.
Yeah, great platform. Great place to play a game.
Yeah, it was awesome. Well, Immaculate, I want to thank you for being the first caller.
Yeah,
to College
thank you,
Football Mafia
Immaculate.
Network.
Thank you so
I'm going to
much.
try and play a crowd cheer down the pipeline for you.
Yay.
Hopefully you can hear that.
I'll take that trophy and someone else call in and let you guys know. So appreciate it, guys. Looks good, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks,
Thank
Immaculate.
you.
We'll talk
See
to you later, brother.
Immaculate. Bye-bye.
Well, there you go. The
earned.
first call on the College Football Mafia Network. Now I just got to get it to where people can hear you guys through my microphone.
I'm not sure that's going to be possible. We may have to get to a point where we just say we'll deal with it the way it is. I don't
It's
know.
possible. It's definitely possible.
Here we go. Okay,
Nothing's
Brock, you're
impossible.
going to set it up.
We're not like the first people in mankind to do it. There's plenty
I
of
think-
multi-guest shows that have it. I don't know how they're doing it, but there's a will, there's a way. We'll figure it out.
Okay. All right.
We can figure it out, but we'll let you go, Bomber. I know
Yeah.
you got to rest up your tongue. We
Yeah.
will see you on Tuesday, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah,
possibly.
we'll shoot for Tuesday night. We do have a guest. I can't remember his name now. The Yukon guy is going to join us. The guy who broke
Okay.
that Yukon story. He's going to be with us about 8:20 Eastern on Tuesday night. So come and we'll talk a little bit about Yukon, Big 12, and how that works, because that's kind of breaking a lot of our models right now. If Yukon sort of skips a couple steps, let's talk about that, because I think that's going to be really interesting. Anyway, so he'll be with us Tuesday night.
There you go. Yukon guy on Tuesday night. Tomorrow, Monday, for a programming notice. 8 p.m. We have the Big Ten Mafia show around 9 p.m. Our friend Big Ten Ted will be joining us
Yay!
to
I
give
love
a
Ted.
season preview, kind of look at the games for this first coming week.
Love it.
Pickles has some challenges for him on his preview. So tune in for that as well.
Okay.
But I want to thank you for joining us, Bomber. I want to tell you,
bet.
hope you're feeling better. Everybody in the chat has been pulling for you and just giving you well wishes, and I want you to know that. I know you've been seeing it on Twitter as well. You
Yeah.
wanted me to thank people for that for you, but you can thank them yourself now.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm very humbled by all the people that have outreached and sent me messages. You know, Rock sent me a text, and that really warmed my heart. So I appreciate everybody that's done that. I don't take it for granted. I'm not one of these guys that's just doing this to be center of attention. I really, really appreciate it. And I have faith. I believe in karma, and I have faith that good things come to good people. And our audience is about the smartest guys out there, don't you guys think?
And most attractive.
I don't know.
They look
about
amazing in text.
It's amazing.
Everybody else, you guys have a great night. We will plan on seeing you Tuesday night. And again, thanks again. I appreciate it. Thank you, Moen. Thanks,
See you,
Rock, for
Bomber.
having me
Take
on.
her easy.
Okay, we'll see you guys later.
There is the man, the myth, the legend. Bomber was with us tonight. If anybody wants to call, that is the number on the screen. Now, you will not be able to hear Rock yet. I'll have to figure that out.
It's probably a good thing for everybody.
At some point, but I got the phones at least semi-working. So
I will hit you up in private chat if I have a question, if a caller comes in. That way you
sounds
can
like
ask
a
it.
plan.
All right.
Let's get to some comments here. Thinking about this, I think the whole situation was set up for this scenario. Florida State had all the hype going in after their amazing last year and all the realignment drama. Georgia Tech was the afterthought.
You know, it's just, you know, the situation of the past year just led up for drama, right? It's the only game on, all eyes are on. It's just not from an optics standpoint, I'm sure they just didn't want that to wind up happening for Georgia Tech. It couldn't have been a better start for their program, right? But everybody saw them play in a key matchup and come away with an unexpected win for those who don't pay attention to what's been going on there, coaching-wise changes in last year.
Yeah, and congratulations to that new defensive coordinator. I'm sure that's a big vote of confidence for him that he was able to keep Florida State to 21 points. Stephen Veit says, I feel bad for New Mexico. They just gave up the game to Montana State. Yeah, it was. I feel bad for Nevada for the same reason. I think they just gave up the game, and that kid muffed that kick. They had to take that ball at the 1 yard line, and they got that safety. Just ugly situation.
Yeah, I mean, look, it sucks for both those teams, but on the bright side, they perform really well against expectations and coming off of really bad years in transition. So it sucks in the moment for sure, but it's in some ways just a good harbinger that things maybe are going to turn around for them slowly, that possibly they have the right people in place.
Could the elevation of Reno been a factor? I know it was a little chilly there. They said it was in the 50s.
You know, I think making an excuse in August about temperature or weather is a little bit rough. Yeah, for sure, Dallas is super hot right now, but I don't know. There, 28 points of favorite, or 24, depending upon where you got it, shouldn't account for that. It was 15 degrees colder than you expected. You know, that would have had them figure it out by halftime, right? They're supposed to have teams, you know, it would be embarrassing to be wearing, you know, things to keep you warm in August on national TV, but they should have been prepared for whatever was going to happen.
Michael Smith says, did the refs give SMU that first touchdown? Seemed like a BS penalty.
I honestly don't remember the play. I heard about it after. But
I will
didn't
be
go back
honest
and
with
watch
you.
it.
I thought the ACC officials did a very good job. I thought they were very fair. When they came on and said that it was going to be a group of ACC officials officiating, I thought, oh shit, Fix is in. They're going to call everything against Nevada, and I thought they did a very fair job.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a caller.
Call from
Stormy Cyclone.
All right, Stormy Cyclone, you're on the show. What's up?
Oh, I just wanted to say hi to everybody and thought it was great football got started. But I was just wondering if anybody happened to watch the PATC this afternoon or this morning, whenever it was.
Rock did.
So what do you think of that? I mean, I know you guys want to talk football, but this realignment things with UConn and things got me thinking about if there's a connection with this Florida State UConn thing. Kind of sounds like the grant rights or whatever is something that was signed in 2010, and it might be actually still valid yet. And it was just wondering that it sounds like FSU might just end up writing a check because they're going to run out of patience just to get out. And if there's a connection with this UConn deal, that something's going to be happening here in the next 6 weeks. Or what? You guys have any thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I don't know that Florida State's going to write a check right now because I don't know that Florida State has a place to go right now. I think they would rather let the legal situation play out a little bit more. But that's just my take. Rock, what are your...
Yeah, and I know Stormy might not be able to hear me, so I'll try to make it quick. You know, if you didn't catch it, Greg was basically alluding to two things. One was that there's Connecticut is a separate conversation, and that's a real thing. There's multiple reporters talking about that, so a good show to get into will be Tuesday night when Bomber and the team and Wild Ute have their guest on. I don't even know how I feel about that one. It makes sense. If you really think the college basketball decoupled is going to really generate a lot of revenue and you want to get in play for one of the stronger teams, now might be the time to do a deal way ahead of when the football will matter for that. But on the Florida State side, they were basically saying that, yes, there was a grant of rights earlier, but there was a new grant of rights done later when the ACC network was done and the new TV deal was amended. That's like subsequent to it. But the original one helped them renegotiate when new teams joined at that time. I think it was Pitt and somebody else, I can't remember, helped them go into the original deal and get more money for that deal. So the conversation was about the fact that now that 3 new schools have come in, that there is a possibility of like a 60-day window, which may have just started recently, now that the schools are all in, for ESPN to come back and add more money to a deal, that maybe something happens before September. And then it went into a conversation about Florida State. There's a school of thought of people who just think they should wait it out, but more people probably think that they're not going to wait for the courts to happen and they just want to get out and they might just have to write a check. I had commented on a couple of days ago, there was an article out there and I can't remember the source of it, but it does exist and I will find it and post it. But basically there was somebody from ESPN at a senior director level commenting publicly about the ACC network and the value it's brought and how it's exceeded expectations in money. And my comment to Greg about that was essentially, having been in that organization and also been in other companies, they don't just let that guy, get a random call from a reporter and comment. Those things are very controlled. And that made me just think that it's very possible that ESPN was using that as a waving their flag that they're still in business with the ACC and maybe they will do something sooner. It doesn't mean that it's going to keep Florida State's thing from changing. It may not mean that they're going to get more money, but it seemed to be more of, hey, let's get a new deal done sooner. And because the ACC network's profitable for them than, opting out by February 1st, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, definitely tune in on Tuesday. That was news. I didn't realize we were going to have a UConn guy on. So that's the news story du jour. So definitely check out the Big 12 Mafia show at 8 p.m. on Tuesday. We will have a guest from UConn on to talk about the potential of UConn joining the Big 12.
And Daniel's commenting it was Pitt and Syracuse in 2013 that allowed them to open up and get more, like basically the composition clause in a positive way.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh market and the New York City market. Those Texas kids didn't like the cold temperature in Reno. Yeah, that's okay. We'll go with that. Maybe they just didn't play. ACC is very balanced this year. To be determined. We've got to see. I mean, a lot of people are saying, SMU has a soft schedule, but there could be some surprises in the ACC this year, like Boston College and Syracuse.
Yeah, there's another drinking opportunity. There was one comment, and I don't remember if it was post game. I think it was their post game show. I'm certainly not an. I want the ACC to implode. So to be clear, but there was one comment after about, well, the ACC. If you really want to get everybody to, think that the football is good, you can win some of the out of conference games that are coming up. It's like they were completely oblivious to the fact that the ACC beat the SEC in head to head last year in football. Like that's ESPN. That's what makes fans who are hoping for an ACC implosion, especially the FSU fans, really go to town. And the other thing that I thought was really annoying from a realignment front in ACC versus FSU world was, Jim Phillips was on an interview during the programming there, advocating strongly for the media for the ACC, how important it is for football. It would have been nice if that jerk had been out last November advocating like Sankey was. It's like, now you're doing it when there's lawsuits, but where were you when the school that could have gone to the title game, the national championship and the playoffs needed you to be an advocate? He was nowhere. He's a clown.
We can all agree Jim Phillips is a clown. Friends Call Me Sean says Moen's liver is hoping Georgia Tech doesn't play like that all season. Let me tell you something. Moen's wallet is hoping they do. If they keep covering spreads, I will keep betting on them.
You're just looking for Syracuse and Georgia Tech parlays all year.
All year. And I think Syracuse is going to be much improved this year. Florida State and SMU both need week 1 to get here so they can get out of the negative spotlight. Yeah. A whole bunch of other teams are probably going to disappoint this week. So, but I don't know if any of them is going to be bigger than Georgia Tech beating Florida State.
Yeah, the rest of the games, if you look at them, nothing that's going to have as many eyeballs all at the same time coming on the heels of an all-season, off-season long storyline that dominated college football.
I mean, if USC goes out there and blows out LSU, absolutely boat races them, that might be a situation that's,
Yeah, it's true, because all eyes will be on that game on Labor Day, on Sunday night.
Sunday before Labor Day, so... Clint Moses said DJU doesn't run unless it's designed or pocket severely collapses, but by then he crumbles under blitzes. Slow, but once rolling downhill, hard to take down. Not many.
I thought he was pretty patient in the pocket, to be honest, for the most part. I've seen him have crazy legs more often in the past.
Yeah, I was just surprised they didn't give him more opportunity. At some point you got to let go of the leash. I believe that these transfers that are getting overpaid aren't preparing like they are fighting for starting time, and it showed like a sore thumb. Some of them look completely lost. You might be onto something, Shonsky. Maybe too much NIL money. They're not out there practicing as hard. They're out there partying.
It's a lot of new players on that team. There's a big turnover on the starting line on both sides. Some, people growing into their roles, and definitely a lot of transfer portal people. So.
It's fun, though. It's fun when dogs win, guys. It's even funner when you bet on them and dogs, or it's even more fun when dogs cover spreads. So, but when they win, it's fun. Only appropriate that Immaculate's the first caller. Yep, he will go down in history. And at some point, I'll get the phone system worked out where everybody can hear everybody. DJU did not look like he was in control of the offense yesterday. From our friend Antoine Coates. I agree. I think that they limited him.
Yeah, I think it's just a finesse of he seemed limited, but I didn't think he was having a problem running the plays that he was given to run. He had a problem with connecting on some of the long balls or a couple of passes. Like other secondaries in the ACC, there are passes that wound up hitting the ground incomplete that would probably have been intercepted and potentially turned back for a key turnover or two that he escaped with.
Stormy Cyclone says, good call, immaculate. There's a Cyclone congratulating on a Hawkeye. That can't bode well. Daniel Gygax says you're going to kick Cancer's ass. Just Bomber will. Stormy Cyclone says Bomber wish you the best. You know what? Let's think about this, guys. The first two callers were an Iowa fan and an Iowa State. We got a third caller.
Call from
Nitwit.
to accept, press 1.
All right, Nitwit, the PSU fan. What do you got to tell us about Penn State versus West Virginia?
I tell you what, it's going to be a great game. It's going to be the game. It's nice to see an old rivalry kind of rekindled here. So I think all the West Virginia fans on TikTok or X have they're kind of talking themselves in that Penn State's no good and they're going to win. So we'll just keep it like that. I like it when Penn State feels like an underdog and just going under the radar. Everybody can keep saying that Franklin can't win the big game and Penn State's nothing. We'll just keep it like that. How about it?
So you think Penn State wins and covers?
Oh, yeah, Penn State. I think they'll win and they'll cover. I think offensive line's pretty strong. You got those two running backs. Probably you got Andy Kotelnicki as a new offensive coordinator. You've seen what he did at Kansas. There's talent all over the field. I'll be honest with you. This is probably the most talented team Franklin has had since he got at Penn State. So we'll see what he can do with that. Before Penn State, they had great wide receivers. They didn't have an offensive line. They had a great offensive line, wide receivers, didn't have a very good quarterback. You know how it is. They just couldn't have put it all together offensively. I think a lot of people don't, out there don't understand, the 2016 team had a really great mix of talent that and got lucky in some games. They beat Ohio State and won the Big Ten championship. Franklin, I think, is the only coach now that beat Urban Meyer. It's still in the conference. So, people can keep talking down on Penn State. But for me, I like it when we're under the radar and people don't think we're going to be any good. I think that's when Penn State kind of surprises people. So I just want to call in. What a great atmosphere in Ireland. What a great game. I think there's something to be said about offensive line play, right, Moen?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Georgia, you could tell right at the beginning of the game, right? They were dominating that defensive line of Florida State. And, you could just the first drive that Georgia Tech was on, I'm like, wow, man, this game is going to be a lot different than what people think. So it kind of goes back to, I know Michigan had the running game. What are we seeing in college football now? Are we going back to, dominating offensive lines, running the ball, controlling the line of scrimmage, playing that game? I think Georgia Tech has given mid-tier level colleges and universities that are in that kind of situation. If you're going to invest money in your offensive line, right, Moen?
Yeah, they just invested $800,000 a year in an offensive lineman coming out of high school.
Right.
So, but let me ask
we
you
know why.
while I've got you online. Is there a patient level you have with Franklin this season to take the next step? Does the seat get hot this year if you don't make the playoffs?
The goal has to be you got to make the playoffs. That's the goal. I think there was some impatience that was shown last year that will continue. I kind of throw the COVID year out, but last year, the performance against Ohio State, the performance against Michigan, I don't know if it's Franklin or, if I was playing Michigan, I would have lined up in a wing tee if they just were going to run the ball. Like if I was Penn State, I would have just lined up in a wing tee and ran it all the time, right down their throat. And I don't know what they were doing. I don't know what the offensive coordinator was doing. But if you wanted to get in that game, we just line up in the wing tee with our tight ends, and we would play that game. I don't know what they were doing. But I think there's a lot of Franklin kind of had some turnover. You had the Moorhead, was an outstanding kind of offensive coordinator in 2016, and you have some kind of bad selections coming out of COVID and the last offensive coordinator. So I don't know. What do you think of Andrew Kolenicki? You think? What's he going to do with Penn State's talent, you think, Moen?
Here's the thing. It's going to depend on the development of Drew Aller. He was a 5-star coming out of Ohio, and he just didn't perform. He was much like Kyle McCord. He didn't perform to expectations last year. Does he move forward this season?
I kind of disagree on Aller. I think he did great with his tight end, with his interception ratio. Touchdown to interception ratio. You can't throw the ball that people aren't getting open.
Sure.
That's the bottom line. There is some weaknesses. He's got to get some things straightened up, but I'm sure Andy is going to do that. Andy can scheme people open. I don't think that was happening last year. I think you're going to see a lot of different formations, motion, kind of like, Georgia Tech kind of put FSU off balance. You're going to need a lot of motion sets, different sets. You're going to have tight ends all over the place. You'll have receivers out at wide. You'll have running backs out at wide receiver and running backs in the backfield or receivers in the backfield. He'll definitely open it up, and I think it'll help Drew Aller. I think when it comes to fundamentals, throwing the ball, I think it's really funny. I think deep balls, you didn't throw many, but I think is accurate. I think in the mid-range game, I think is accurate. He struggled sometimes some of the easiest throws, which young quarterbacks try to force it sometimes. Like sometimes the easiest throws is the ones he screwed up.
Yeah, and that's something. That's what I think we need to see out of Penn State. They have to have development from Drew Aller this season.
Right.
He can't make bad throws in clutch situations, which especially in the Big Ten where it's a game of margins. If it's a 3-point game and he can't connect on a 3rd and 3, assuming Franklin calls a pass on a 3rd and 3 instead of a run.
And sometimes as a quarterback now in this game, Moen, you have to be able to throw a 10-yard curl for a first down, whether he's open or not. Do you know what I mean?
Yep, you got to throw it to where only your receiver can catch it.
That's where the elite quarterbacks are. If he's there at that level, if it comes all together for Drew, Penn State's going to be lights out, man. I think we'll compete. Ohio State, we get them at home. You get the schedule sets up nicely. Tough game with West Virginia. I love that rivalry. I love the fans down there. They're going to be in it. I remember back in the day driving down the old road, and there was signs like "We hate Penn State," and it's going to be a backyard brawl, but it's a different kind of backyard brawl because I know Pitt is their rival, but back in the day, Penn State was just as big. And when Penn State came to town, if they win, there'll be some couches being burned for sure. So
yeah, there's no doubt about it. The atmosphere in Morgantown is electric. So I'm looking forward to that game. I think I'm going to take West Virginia in the points. I do expect Penn State to win, but I think West Virginia does cover.
Right. I'm looking. I'll tell you what. I mean, this is a good game. I know Moen, you'll be watching it as an Ohio State fan, but I tell you what, I'm going to be watching you guys. I really hope you can go into Oregon, go into Eugene, and beat Oregon, and have a Penn State, Ohio State undefeated game coming
that
in
would be
at Happy
fun.
Valley.
That would be fun. I
Yeah.
said, I expect Penn State to make the playoffs this year. I think this is the year for James Franklin. He's got to prove something. You guys should have made the playoffs in 2016. I'm saying that as an Ohio State fan. I think that's something a lot of people forget when they discuss James Franklin. Y'all should have been in there in 2016 instead of Ohio State. You beat Ohio State. So I look forward to
I tell you
State
what.
season.
Well, congratulations on your call-in setup. This was great. Thanks for taking my call, Moen. And you guys do a bang-up show, and I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Sounds good. Go State.
I'm going to guess the callers will be happy, Moen, that this setup doesn't work. They don't have to hear me chirping at them as you ask the question. So it might be the best solution.
I was reading your questions from private chat.
You totally did it. Like Moen could host Jeopardy soon, guys, if he wanted to. What are some questions Rock's going to ask for 1,000?
Listen, we're going to get this worked out. I did this in an hour today. And obviously, this shortcut was based on a one-person show, not a two-person show or a three-person show. But I will get this figured out. I promise you that, where everybody can hear everybody. So, thank you, PSU Nitwit. Awesome call. Great caller here.
Really great call.
Penn State guy. That's one of the games I'm most excited for this weekend. Penn State versus West Virginia. What game are you looking forward to the most?
I mean, it's like, besides Miami and Florida, it's Clemson, Georgia, actually. For
really?
Me, just because I just want to see what Dabo's program looks like after sticking to his guns and not going to the portal versus a team that is like picking the best of everyone. If there could be moral victory there for Clemson. If they win, then narratives change dramatically, right? Like, I'm not expecting Clemson to win. I'm really curious about the USC LSU game because I want to see if USC actually developed the defense at all with their new defensive coordinator coming over from UCLA, because that'll be a good harbinger to what we could expect from them in the Big Ten. But I mean, I can barely sleep about Miami and Florida. I can't begin to tell you how much I just despise and love that rivalry at the same time. I despise the team and love the intermittent rivalry that it is. So
will it be a blowout? Will it be a blowout?
I think Miami's going to win by 10. I don't think that's a blowout. I think it would be a blowout if it was in Florida. I'm not going to diminish the home field advantage of Gainesville. I am drinking whatever flavor Cam Ward Kool-Aid exists. I'm drinking it. I'm tired of being skeptical of Miami. The talent is there. I think there's enough talent to make up for any coaching lapses. I know they've added a ton more analysts, and they have microphones in quarterbacks' ears, and I don't think Miami will ever not take a knee again. I don't put it past Mario to not blow it again, but I think the talent differential is there, and I'm wish casting based off of some degree of facts, but my call is Miami plus 10. They're favored by 3 on the road.
By the way, Clemson is 13.5 points dogs to Georgia.
Yeah, I just want to see a close game. I kind of, it's a measuring stick game in terms of did your strategy work against the best team? Like, how far of a distance, a gap? If they keep it close, under a touchdown, that's a good harbinger for some degree of the top of the ACC, potentially heading into the rest of the season. I don't really even know where I think that game goes, but I'm really curious to see how it plays out.
I think Kirby Smart loves to run up the score. And I would take the 13.5. I would take Georgia and give up the 13.5.
It's a win-win for me either way, Moen. Right? If Clemson does great, then the ACC power ranking perception gets better we're in a world where we don't know where the CFP playoff committee is going to look. And if they take an L, in a bad form, it also could theoretically help my completely biased orange and green glasses and towards the end of the season, even though Miami does not play Clemson this year.
By the way, speaking of Penn State, West Virginia, that line continues to move down. It is now at 8.5. That was 10.5 just 2 weeks ago.
I have this. I like West Virginia just as a program and a team, and like their fans in general. Have for a while. Have respect for them from the Big East days with Miami. I have a feeling that they're going to get their heart broken though in a game. Like I don't think they're going to get blown out, and they're going to be close enough to like have felt like they could have done something at the end. But I do think Penn State will pull that one out.
Take a look here. Ryan Willie has gifted 5 memberships to the College Football Mafia family. Let's give him some love. Let's let him cook.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
If you received one of those gifted memberships for our great friend Ryan Willie, make sure you thank him in the chat. If you're not watching live, drop him a thanks in the comments section. It's always much appreciated. Ryan, my dude, you were a great guy. You're an evil badger. Here's your evil laugh. And I'll give you a Minnesota O.
Oh!
Thank you so much, Ryan Willie. It is much appreciated, dude. Your generosity knows no bounds.
And Moen, we will be on theoretically as the USC LSU game is going into the second half and third quarter, fourth quarter.
We'll see if anybody's still watching that game, because I think if LSU is up big, that's probably not a good sign.
It may turn into a de facto watch party in the background. So,
although I will admit I played EA college football today and got blown out by somebody playing USC. They kept hitting this play. I could not stop number 1 Branch on their team. Over the top, Branch he just kept hitting the same play. And I even had like triple wide receiver set on, and I could not stop that play. So if Miller Moss throws to number 1 Branch all day, maybe they could win. Go Black 45 says yesterday was all Jim Phillips' fault for not standing up for them 9 months ago.
You know my thoughts there.
Immaculate says Georgia Tech has never been my afterthought. Cheers to that. Rock and Rants Dog agrees.
Absolutely.
Friends call me Sean. Officiating was fine. Georgia Tech deservingly won. Florida State has enough talent to have a very good season. Yes, they do. They've got plenty of talent. Just might need coached up a bit or get some more time to gel. Immaculate says they might be able to get around Florida State and Clemson when it comes to votes, but they can't vote to force Florida State and Clemson to sign a grant of rights.
Yeah, that's going back to if there's any conversations going on right now with a renegotiated deal, and the votes under 5%, there's different rules. If there's under 5% per year value, there's different rules in the bylaws. If it's over that, then you have to hit the threshold of votes, of which Florida State and Clemson could get outvoted. But the grant of rights thing, if it's tied to a new grant of rights, that's a different issue, separate issue.
Tempest says Florida State and Clemson is going to open the door for the University of Miami, as you can attest to, North Carolina State, Virginia, and Virginia Tech.
I'm not sure what you're referring to there in terms of Virginia.
Well,
at first I thought it was about Florida State losing, but if it's about, I don't think all those schools, if it's about the ACC, if those two teams leave, I don't think all those teams are staying in the ACC when and if.
Right, I think he's saying that all those teams would leave.
Open the door. Understood. I wasn't sure which door because we're actually in football season. Like, wait, all those teams, those could maybe have a shot. And then I saw Virginia, and they have no shot in terms of actual football.
I am so happy that college football is here, guys. I sat my ass on the couch from like 12 noon to like 3 in the morning. And then I went on 3 hours of sleep. I didn't even see the end of the Hawaii-Delaware State game. I just knew when they weren't going to cover. That's when I fell asleep. Shonsky says Florida State needs to worry about the ACC in a championship rather than worrying about the court. That performance was pathetic. SMU at times looked peewee kids playing for the first time, other than their tight end. Their tight end looked like a superstar.
Yeah, but I don't. And listen, I think some of the players. I mean, look, I haven't had a conversation with one FSU player, but most of the players there are not concerning themselves about what's going to happen to a conference affiliation in a league that they're not even going to be still playing for FSU by the time it happens. And the athletic director, I don't think, helped put the gameplay together. So I think there's two separate silos of things there. Whether there's hey, they hyped themselves up because they felt snubbed from the playoff last year, that I can understand for the players that were there heading into this game. But then you think the performance would have been a little bit better on the field. That first drive was really impressive. Like, if that was how they looked, we would not be having any conversations. I was surprised that the game took the turn after seeing that first drive materialize the way they did.
Daniel Geiger says, Moen, I made a lot of money picking Iowa to win straight up and the under last year. Yeah, that would have been a good pick last year. I don't know if that's the case this year. I have to ask Immaculate. He says they've got an offensive coordinator now.
Everyone's got an offensive coordinator. Do they have a good one?
Could be scary. By the way, I'm all for firing Justin Fry and bringing Brian Prince to Columbus. Clemson beating Georgia would change the narrative. It absolutely would. Clemson would have to be viewed as a favorite in the ACC and a favorite in the college football playoffs.
Absolutely.
Mick Stevens says, I left 4 tickets to Florida State at SMU game on my dashboard. Somebody broke the window and put 4 more with them.
That's awesome. It's an old joke, but I haven't heard it in a long time.
Yeah, I made the joke earlier. We did on our group chat. Somebody posted I think it was Premoto posted tickets for the SMU game were $1, and I said I couldn't believe that those cheapskates at SMU would only pay someone $1 to fill the seats.
Yeah, listen, everyone's not the 80,000 seat stadium. I think that Nevada game had a lot of empty seats, and it looked like less people there than at the high school game that ESPN covered midday after the Georgia Tech FSU game wrapped.
Yeah, but you're in Reno. I mean, if you're in Reno,
Yeah,
you're going to
for
go to the world's largest bowling alley, not the Nevada game. Immaculate says an offensive lineman makes your QB better, makes your RB better, and makes all receivers better. None of those do that for their offensive line. That's true, but a lot of them in the NFL will pay their offensive linemen gifts and bonuses. So those guys do get some nice cars and some nice, Caleb Downs bought everybody in the Ohio State locker room Beats headphones off his NIL paycheck. So
this will be the first interior offensive lineman that's taking out the quarterbacks for steak. Their new recruit.
Shonsky says, I'm interested in seeing Clemson play, what kind of effort and continuity they have without taking any transfers. I'm definitely taking the Dogs again. I killed it this weekend. Boy, I cannot take Clemson as the Dogs in that one. Simply because I think Georgia has the Dogs.
Yeah, I personally won't touch that game. I just want to enjoy it and watch it. That won't be on any of my donation cards to Bovada, since we don't have legal gambling here in California yet still.
Almighty Finn says, what up, Moen and Rock and Rant? It's not the end of the season for FSU. We will bounce back.
You don't want to wait 360 days, 4 days for a season to start and give up hope after one day, especially in the playoff era. But, I might have some liquor handy, though.
Yeah, I will say this. If you're going to lose to Georgia Tech, no better time than to do it with a 12-team playoff, because people tend to forget Ohio State in that 2014 playoff run, they lost their second game of the season to Virginia Tech. And they made it to the playoffs and won the national championship, that inaugural 14 playoff.
It does suck to have a 4,000-mile flight and still have to go through customs after losing, though.
You think they actually went through customs? Penn State got screwed when the last AD gave him this contract extension. I think the buyout is still too high. James Franklin's a good coach. He just makes some bad coaching decisions from time to time. It'll be 4th and 3, and he'll run the ball. I don't know why.
Yeah, you would think at a certain point that, it just depends upon what kind of program you want to have. If you want to have a program that's like doing really good and is always in the mix, or do you need that title? I mean, I would think, to me, Penn State has seemed like one of those programs that eventually wants to get themselves over the top and past Michigan and Ohio State, let alone to the title. So just what's the patience level?
Great question here from Mr. N. Wayner. Will we see an expansion of games on week 0? It seems like a no-brainer for college football to max out games on TV week 0 and week 1 before the NFL starts the regular season. I think within the next 2 years, you're going to see week 0 become week 1.
Yeah, and then, I mean, but at what point does it stop? Because then it would have week -1, and that will be the one game that goes to Australia, and then we go to Ireland.
I don't think you will. I think all the games will be on week 1. I don't think you'll have a week 0. I think they're going to move the entire season up 1 week. Let's see here. Almighty Finn, immaculate. 1988, Florida State lost game 1 to Miami, 31-0. Finished that season 11-1. In 1989, Florida State started their season 0-2. When the end of the season, they finished 10-2. Not the end of the world. Like I said, the Ohio State example, perfect example.
That's even a worse example, because the 1988 game that Miami wound up losing was to Notre Dame on a call that in 2000 and after would have been reversed, with a non-fumble going into the goal line. So Florida State has 2 titles, to me, 2 title championships that were because of things that wouldn't have happened later. But you know what? He's right when it comes down to it. Yes, I'm bitter.
Stephen Veit says Penn State will make the CFP this year. No doubt. I think so too. Like the calling aspect, I fumbled the phone on my end. No pun intended. No, you're fine. Stormy Cyclone. Like I said, we're getting stuff figured out here. Elliot Cruz says, you guys still claiming that the sky is falling on the ACC. It is falling on the ACC. Your 2 biggest brands are suing the conference to get out.
Yeah, sky is falling. Losing two big brands is generally not a good thing for any division. No one has said that I can recall that the ACC is going away like the Pac-12 did.
Right.
It's been various offshoots of what could happen, but yeah, it's still generally not a good idea for your conference to get sued by the 2 most successful programs of the last decade.
Almighty Finn says, Lee, I think the coaches overlooked Georgia Tech. I agree. I think everybody overlooked Georgia Tech, except Georgia Tech fans.
I think it's fairly inexcusable, though, to like overlook a conference game on game 1 of your year. It's not like there was and it wasn't like Florida State is meeting Alcorn State in Dublin.
Right. At least we didn't get another Notre Dame Navy game. I hope the team just hasn't quite gelled yet, but I'm almost afraid to hope. This may just be more of a rebuilding year than we were led to believe. 13 of the 2023 Seminoles are now in the NFL. It matters. Fair enough. I don't disagree with that.
A lot of new starters on both sides of the ball for Florida State. Mix of them, and it's hard to get that together. Just in practices on each other.
Daniel Gygax says, I wonder how many remember the Dan Marino glove commercials. I do. They were isotoner gloves.
I don't. The only thing I remember about gloves has to do with a guy in a car chase.
he advertised for him too. So, does anyone know how to fix this YouTube app on my phone? It keeps minimizing on its own, and it's driving me crazy. I would suggest uninstalling the app and reinstalling. If you have YouTube Premium, that's a good thing. But if it keeps minimizing, it's never a good idea. I think we're going to wrap this up. It's an hour and 20 minutes in. We had 3 phone calls. I want to thank Immaculate, Stormy Cyclone, and PSU Nitwit for calling in. Much appreciated, guys. We will get this phone situation figured out so everybody can hear everybody. This is the first run. Please forgive me. I didn't have anybody to test it with earlier, so I didn't know nobody could hear anybody. So, Rock and Rant, anything you want to say before we split out of here tonight?
No, just one, if you haven't joined our bragging rights pick 'em poll. Make sure you do so again, and those picks have to be in. Well, I don't even know if it's Thursday, Moen, because there's a ton of games in CFB Thursday, Friday this week.
Yeah.
Way
Let me
more than your
see.
usual slate. But still time to get in and chop it up and join our Discord to talk about it. But yeah, if you're looking ahead, guys, it's not just the 1 or 2 games on Thursday. There's multiple games Thursday, Friday. Dion and the Buffaloes and the NILs and We Don't Talk to Reporters are playing. I think it's Thursday or Friday night. There's a few games heading into a pretty jam-packed Saturday.
We didn't even get into Dion tonight. We didn't even get into all the.
Well,
I'm
Dion
not
was
talk to this reporter and that reporter
because he was too busy talking to Saudi Arabia, so like he didn't have time to talk to CBS or anybody else who's questioning the almighty Dion and the Buffaloes. You know how you're losing when you're like, we're banning reporters, even if they're jerks. A way to lose is to ban reporters. It's not a good look, even if they are jerks, or even if you don't like them. It's not a solid approach to dealing with the media.
Good news, the pick'em. There are no Thursday games on that pick'em. It starts on Saturday, so you'll have till Friday to get your picks in that game. Again, that's pinned at the top comment. It'll take you right to the Twitter post with the link and the password. We're going to do our own internal, just like we did last year, our own internal picks. We will probably do a couple of those picks on Tuesday, simply because there are Thursday games, but the majority of that throughout the season will be on Friday. We'll do our picks
and real quick,
yeah,
I'm picking Greg's Gophers for Thursday since I won't probably be on a show again before then, or it'd be a sacrilege to not at least pick that game before that happens. So Greg hopefully has 1 week of happiness before the cooler hits.
I think it is a pick 'em. I think it's 1 point last time I checked. So it's a toss up pretty much. I like North Carolina. I just don't trust PJ Fleck. So but we will get into the Thursday picks on Tuesday. Again, as a programming reminder, tomorrow, Monday night on the Big Ten Mafia show, we will have Big Ten Ted joining us at about 9 p.m. We will start the show at 8 p.m. And then on Tuesday, for the Big 12 Mafia show, we have a gentleman representing UConn calling into the show. So should be fascinating stuff. We do hope you will tune in. Until next time, I want to thank everybody for stopping by. Thanks for the super chats and the gifted memberships, Ryan Willie. Much appreciated. And peace out.